guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name's Jade and I hope you're having a wonderful day. So today's video is going to be a little bit more relaxed. I'm going to be talking about less commonly known BPD symptoms. If you don't know what BPD is, it's borderline personality disorder. So I'm going to be talking about the symptoms that aren't necessarily listed in the DSM, but they are still symptoms that I know I experience and I know a lot of other people with BPD also experience. I just want to make a little side note first that I know that my audio in my past videos has not been great. I'm hoping that I've fixed some issues now. Hopefully this video should be a bit better. I'm hoping to get a mic in future, but it costs like £30 minimum. But I think I've sorted the audio issues out. Let me know if not and I'll try and do something else, but until I get a mic there's not really much I can do. And also my usual little disclaimer thing, whatever, this video may be triggering. I don't think I'm going to talk about anything too triggering or too sensitive, but you never know, so I'm just letting you guys know in advance. So the first symptom I'm going to talk about, that again is not listed in the DSM. It's not an official symptom, but it's something that I experience, something that I know a lot of other people do, which is age regression. Age regression can also be experienced by people who have PTSD or complex PTSD. Age regression is basically when somebody regresses back to an age they were at when something traumatic happened. Now this may not always be the case, but majority of the time it's when something happened to that child that may have been traumatic. Sorry if you can hear my dog barking and my brother hoovering. It's just so hard to film in this house. For me, I don't really know a specific age that I regress back to. I can't say, I don't know, but I do know how I feel. And I would say it could be like 5, 6, 7-year-old. It will present itself in a way that I can throw tantrums like how a child would, like how a toddler would. You know, you don't get your way and a child will completely lose their minds. They can't be reasoned with. It's completely illogical. You can't calm them down until they get what they want. It's like that. Hard to cope with as a fully grown adult as well, especially because I know in my head how I'm acting like a kid. I know that and I'm aware of it, but I can't really stop it. And it can also mean that you are really intrigued by things that a child would be intrigued by, not necessarily somebody your age. There's some things that I'll be like, oh my god, that's amazing, and people around me will be like, yeah, it's okay, you know, it's nothing crazy, and I'm there losing my mind, because to me it's incredible, especially if I'm in that moment. My voice can change as well, the way I speak, the words I use, so I can literally sound more like a child than I normally would. It's strange. And again, like I said, the language I use, it can be a little bit more childlike and less how I would talk to another adult if I wasn't feeling like I'm age regressing. That's a really weird one. And it can be hard to cope with, and it can be hard to understand if you're looking in from the outside, and if you're somebody who doesn't have BPD and you're looking at someone with BPD and they're doing this, you might think that they're just immature, they just need to grow up, or they may have something, unless you are somebody who's compassionate enough to maybe understand that there's possibly something that they have, like a mental illness or a disorder that makes them act like that. But if you aren't that kind of person, you're going to think that person is just acting weird for no reason. And there's been times I've had looks when I've been acting that way, and it's so frustrating because I just want to scream at these people and say, look, I don't mean it, and I don't know why I feel this way. I don't know why I'm acting like the way I am. I don't know why I'm throwing this tantrum. I don't know why I feel all these emotions so strongly, but I do. It's hard to explain that to people, and it can be really frustrating because they just don't understand. Unless you have somebody else with BPD in your life and you're lucky enough to be able to talk through these things with someone who will understand. And I'm lucky enough that I have a few friends who have BPD, plus my Twitter account where I have quite a lot of people on there who also have BPD. So I'm able to discuss these things, and I see the similarities in other people and how other people experience the same things that I do. So the next symptom I'm going to talk about is paranoia. It actually is listed. Some websites will list paranoia as a symptom, but they will specify that it's only when somebody with BPD is under extreme stress. It's definitely something that happens more when I am stressed or when I'm going through something like a major change in my life. For example, the worst period of time I can remember was just after my parents broke up. We moved house, and moving into a new house and getting used to the new family dynamic, and at the time I was changing jobs as well, so there was so much change in my life, and my paranoia was times 1,000. It was so consuming. I use that word a lot, but it's such a accurate word, especially when talking about BPD, because it does feel like any emotion you have completely just it's like it's in your blood and it's running through your body, and you can feel it in every inch of your body, every centimeter of your skin, millimeter, whatever, you can feel it. So the paranoia is crippling. For me, I was paranoid about everything. I was paranoid about my friends not liking me, my family not liking me, people at work not liking me. It was mainly around people's opinions of me, and I became obsessed with how they felt and what they were doing and what they were saying about me behind my back. And this applied to my boyfriend as well, and this was actually the only time I've ever checked his phone, and this is something that I'm not proud of. I'm quite ashamed of it actually, but around this time was the first and only time I ever went through my partner's phone, and it was because my paranoia was so extreme. In my head I kept hearing, it was almost like a voice saying, he's cheating on you, he's cheating on you, he's talking to somebody else, he's doing this, he's doing that. I tried my best to kind of tell the voice that it's not true, that he's not doing that, and I knew in my heart of hearts that he wasn't. I knew deep down, but in order to really get rid of those thoughts, I had to know for sure. So I checked his phone, and he knows about it. I apologised, we talked about it afterwards, and he understood. But of course he was hurt, and that's understandable. He was hurt that I didn't trust him. I then explained to him that I do trust you. It's almost like a separate entity. I wanted to say, like, it wasn't so much me that didn't trust you, it was my BPD. I wouldn't have been able to rest, sleep, until I'd known for sure that he wasn't cheating. And of course he wasn't. I found nothing. That was about time. It also got to the point where there was times where I'd be in my bedroom, positive that there was somebody outside with a gun or with like a telescope spying on me. I've thought people were watching me in the shower. I've thought people were plotting against me. I thought there was a whole conspiracy before at my work. I thought everybody was against me. It was so painful and so crippling. I know I've already used that word, but that is the only word I can think of to describe it. And no amount of validation was enough. I could ask my friends over and over again, which I did, do you still like me? Do you see me as your best friend, or am I just a friend? Am I a close friend? These things I would literally obsess over, like, who cares? Who cares what label they give you in their minds? But to me, that meant everything. It was really hard, and I think paranoia needs to be discussed a bit more, especially with BPD, because not only do you feel the paranoia, but because you feel emotions so strongly anyway, it's already that bit more amplified. And then alongside all the other negative emotions that come along with it, like the shame or the guilt or the anger, whether it's at yourself or at the other people, regardless, it's consuming. Again, using that word, but we're talking about BPD, which is consuming. It's all consuming. It takes up your entire life. It dictates your moods, it dictates how you feel, how you think, and yeah, Very, very difficult to cope with. The next symptom I'm going to talk about is auditory and visual hallucinations. Now, this isn't something I hear talked about often at all. This is something that's kind of linked with the paranoia. So again, it's something that people with BPD may experience when they're under extreme stress. I don't always need to be under extreme stress to experience hallucinations. However, I do have other diagnoses. So it could be because of my other diagnoses, but I believe that BPD is the main driver of my hallucinations. I experience mainly auditory hallucinations, but I do also experience some visual hallucinations. So mine are, it's quite hard to explain, and I've tried to explain it to my psychiatrist before, was that it's like I see the thing in my head, whatever it is that I'm hallucinating, say it's a girl. So I'm seeing the girl in my head, not visually, but it's so real in my head that I still believe it's there. Hallucinations are extremely hard to cope with. They are scary and they can be very dangerous for somebody. A lot of times people with hallucinations might experience somebody telling them to hurt themselves. They might hear somebody telling them to do certain things to themselves or to other people, which is extremely distressing for the person who's experiencing it. And of course then, you know, there is always that risk they're going to do something to themselves or to somebody else to alleviate those thoughts, which that's a touchy subject. I don't want to ever put blame on somebody with a mental illness, but of course anybody getting hurt, that's never a good thing. But the person should of course have the right help and the right support, the right diagnosis, the right medication, the right treatment. And that's like wishing for fairy dust, because, you know, especially here in the UK, I mean, I know that I don't know what it's like in every other country. I know America, they have to pay for their healthcare, and I know it's a ridiculous amount of money. So we are so blessed to have the NHS in this country. However, the funding isn't there, therefore the mental health services are completely neglected, which means millions of people in the UK are going so long without help for their mental illnesses. They're even though they may be diagnosed, so you've got your handful of people who are undiagnosed and who are suffering without realising, or they are struggling to get a diagnosis. Then you've got people who are diagnosed and who still can't get any help and still can't get any treatment because it's just not available, or you're having to wait 2 years on a waiting list. It's just not right. It's just not right, especially with things like hallucinations, because the after effects can be so bad. Again, if they hurt themselves or somebody else, or it's just so distressing to the point where they physically feeling it, they may have physical problems along with, because stress is one of the biggest killers, and it's so hard to even identify when you're stressed at times because it can be such an underlying thing. So it's hard when people say, oh, watch out for these symptoms. If you are feeling extra stressed, maybe reach out for extra support. But it can be hard to even know when you are feeling that until sometimes it's too late. So the next symptom I'm going to talk about is object constancy. This is a tricky one to explain, but I'm going to try anyway. So the concept of this is, I'll explain it like when I am, say, with my partner for a few days, he then goes home, I don't see him for a week. It makes me feel like he's not real. It's the same kind of concept of when you play peekaboo with a baby. So when you're going peekaboo like that, that is object constancy. That's teaching them that even though you're gone, you're covering your face, you're still there. And that's the part of the brain that has to develop to learn that. Whereas with people with BPD, that part of the brain is underdeveloped. And it can mean that if I don't see you often, or if I don't speak to you, I can sort of feel like the relationship isn't real, the connection doesn't feel real. And that can be hard for the other person to cope with, because it can feel like I've split on them, which can sometimes be a result of object constancy. There's been times where I've not seen my partner for a while and I split on him because of the object constancy. It doesn't make any sense. So that one can be quite distressing. It can be very confusing as well, because yeah, just to feel all of a sudden like something's not real. The last one I'm going to talk about is splitting, and I'm going to touch on FPs as well with this one. So splitting is a term used for people with BPD. When we split on somebody, it's usually that I hate you, I love you thing. So we can go from I love you so much, you're the best person in the world, putting you on a pedestal, you're incredible, to I absolutely hate you, you're the worst person in the world, you're awful, I don't want to know. And this can happen so quickly, and it's called splitting because it's basically splitting from one thing to the other. It's like doing a complete 180 in the matter of seconds, and it could be because of anything. It could be a tone of voice changing, it could be body language being off, it could be the way somebody said something or the words they used or how they made you feel. It could be what somebody else said to somebody else. It could be something you overheard and you still are affected by it, and you split because it's made you think something that's not necessarily true. For example, if my partner say I'm at his house and I'm going home that day, if he asks me what time you thinking of going, completely normal question, you know, that's something that he just wants to know so that he can plan his day around what time I'm planning on leaving. But in my head, I hear that as he wants me to go now. He doesn't want me here anymore. He doesn't want to spend any more time with me. Fine, whatever. And it's that split, and it is that quick. Splitting can be very distressing, not only for the person, but also for the person that we're splitting on. But this can also relate to FPs. So FP, if you don't know, is a favourite person. I don't know who came up with that term. I'm not sure I like it, favourite person. I don't like how it makes it sound like you're my favourite person. I don't know, I'm not a fan of that name. So a favourite person is somebody that you have a very specific kind of bond with. And it's basically the person that, unfortunately, holds your world in their hands. That's how it feels. So they are that one person that everything they do influences your mood in some way. Everything they say, everything they feel influences your mood and how you feel and how you think. And again, these are the people that we may split on the most often because we are so emotionally attached to them. So, you know, we're more easily triggered with them, and it can feel like your whole world's crashing in, even though nothing's happened, simply because they've said they want to go home, or actually, should we not hang out today, I'm a bit tired. That is what can lead to then the splitting and the reacting. And it's not always fair, it's not always justified. It's hard to learn how to control that on your own. And having a breakup from one of these people, whether that's a friend, a partner, even a family member, if that relationship breaks down, that can feel like your whole world's ending, and it can feel like that person's died. It feels that painful. And because you are so heavily attached, you feeling abandoned, and then of course that brings up all the fears of abandonment, which then can lead on to impulsivity, self-destructive behaviour, all the things that are in the other video, the 9 symptoms of BPD. So if you want to check that out, please do. So that is all for today, guys. I hope this video has made some sense and been in some way educational. Mainly just talking about my experiences. If you do have any suggestions for videos, please leave them in the comments below. I hope you all have the best day, and I will see you in my next video. Okay, bye guys.
Life was dull until you came. I was breathless when we first met.